Hey there, thanks for stopping by my channel to color. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Today, we're going to be coloring this adorable Whimsy Stamps image called Penguin's Pumpkin Patch with some Copic markers, and you are watching the fast-forward version of this video with just the coloring. If you want to see the full-length video, head over to my channel and you can find it there. This is a card kit, so I'll put a link down in the description box to the card kit and all the supplies I use in case you would like to pick something up. Okay, so I went ahead and I stamped my image with some Memento Tuxedo Black ink on some Neenah 80-pound solar white cardstock, and I'm going to go ahead and start out by coloring my images with my T markers. So for the black parts, I'm going to use T9, 8, 7, and 6, and I'm going to use T1, 0, and my colorless blender for the white areas. So I always start out, I color darkest to lightest. This is just my personal preference. You can do it the other way if you would like. I just find this way works best for me. I always start out with the darkest color, and I color in all the little shadow areas, and then when I come to my next color, I flick over just a little bit of the previous color's line so it softens it a little bit, and then I can just continue on until I get to my lightest color. So here we're going to switch up here and we're going to do some of the areas on his little fin and his face, and right there on the side of his face it kind of curves in and there's a bunch of little dots there, so I'm using those little dots as my guide. So I'm kind of going along and I added those, and now I'm going with my next darkest color and I'm adding those right over the top a little bit of my previous color, and I'm adding a little bit more shadows around on my little penguin. Then we're going to go ahead and switch to T7. Again, I'm going over the top a little bit of T8, and I'm just filling in a little bit more of our white space. I'm trying to cover up quite a few of those little dots that are already there for our penguin. And then I'm going to come over with my T6 and go over the top of that. And here my pin's a little juicy. I don't use my T's very much, so to avoid one of those big blobs in the middle of my area, I just went ahead and removed the cap from the other end, and hopefully that will keep it from making a big mess. I was thinking that maybe I would leave some white space on my penguin there at the top, but I didn't like how it looked, so I decided I'd just go ahead and color it in, and then later if I decide I want to add that in, I can just use my Sharpie white paint pen or my white gel pen and put a little white line up there on the top of his head and on his little fin over there. I wasn't being very careful when I was coloring, so I didn't leave enough of a space there to leave the white on there. It was all my fault, so later on I'll decide if I want to put some white back in or, you know, just leave it like it is. So here on this penguin, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just going to go ahead and do all the darker areas first, and then I come in and work my way down until I get to my T6 and color my little penguin guy in again. And again, don't forget on the side of his face, he's got that little dip there, so you want to make a little shadow in there so it looks like it recesses into his head a little bit and his cheeks puff out. Now we'll go ahead and we'll color in the rest with our T6. And again, I decided I would just forgo that whole worrying about the white business and just color the entire image in with that. And then I come back with my T9, which was the darkest, and I'm just going to add little dashes of that in the darkest areas so that we can add a little bit more shadow and kind of define it a little bit more. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on our white. For that, we're going to start with T1. We're going to add that where we want to have our shadows first. So since that little guy's head is kind of tipped over to the right, I decided I'd go ahead and add my shadows on the inside there so that it would cast a little bit of shadow down onto his face. And I'm going in where I put the little black streaks on the side of his cheeks. I'm giving it a little bit more of an indent there so that it'll give it a little bit more of a puffy look. Now I'm going over the edges with my T0. And then we're going to take our colorless blender and we're just going to kind of swirl it around in that white area so that it can smooth it all out. And I forgot to do his belly, but that's okay because we're going to come back and we're going to do that in a minute. So let's do his feet. For his feet, we're going to use YR 27, 24, and 23. Oh, and his little beak. So I always start with the darkest again, so I'm just putting that down where I want to add some shadows first. And because his little feet are kind of tipped out, I decided the edges would be a little bit darker. So that's where I added my dark shadows in there on that one little guy's feet. And that guy's body's kind of over the top of his feet, so I've made his shadows be at the top of his foot underneath of his body there. I'm going to add a little dash of color for our YR24, just filling in a little bit more space. And then I'm going to take YR23 and go over all of that coloring. I kind of swipe from the right to the left or the left to the right over the entire thing so that it smooths out all those colors and fills the entire thing in. All right, so let's do some reds. For that, we're going to use our 29, 27, 24, 22, and 21. And I'm going to go ahead and start with R29. And me and R29 just do not get along, so I try to use a bare minimum amount of that. Otherwise, I get a little shiny patch on my coloring, and it does it every time. I've tried changing markers, refilling it, changing the nib. No matter what, it just seems like it's always leaving some kind of glossy little area on there. So I just try to use just a little bit of that, and that kind of helps me avoid that. So for the hat, we're going to go ahead and add our R29, and I'm going to add some little creases on our hat so that it looks like it's bumpy and scrunched up on his head. So I'm adding that in there, and then I'm going to go over the top of that with R27. I'm just adding a little dab on the edges and kind of flicking it into the inside of a hat and taking a little bit more space up. Now we're going to go ahead and add R24 over that, and I'm going to leave a little couple of white patches in there so we can go over the entire hat with R22 and give it a couple of little highlights in there. And then I'm just going to dot my R22 and R21 up here on my little hat on the pom-pom, and then swirl my colorless blender around on it to give it a little bit of definition. Next, we're going to go ahead and fill in his tummy there that I forgot about. So I'm doing T1, and then I'm going to go over that with my T0, and then I'll go over both of those with my colorless blender and swirl it around on his belly there, trying not to hit the black or his foot because I don't want to move that around. And that does it for those cute little penguins. So let's go ahead and do our little leaf up there. So for the leaf on the first one, I made it a little bit darker and I didn't really love it. So on the first card, I used YG 97, 95, 93, YR24, 23, and RO8 and RO2. And like I said, I got it a little too dark, so I'm decided this time I would just try some different colors. So I'm going to end up with YR27, 24, and 23, and then R24, or 27, 24, and 22 for my leaf. And I really like how it turned out this time. It kind of matches more with the color of the leaves that we're going to make to put on the front of our card. So I really like how it turns out, and it's kind of lighter and a little bit more fall colorish than the greens that I had on there the first time. So next time I might even color it a completely different color, maybe put some YGs in there. I think that would look really pretty. But you just got to kind of experiment and see what kind of colors you like and what kind of results you get as to whether or not it's something that you're going to enjoy. So let's pop up here and do our little stem. We're going to use YG 97, 95, and 93. I'm putting my 97 down where I want there to be the darkest shadow. I'll go over the top of that with YG 95, and then go over the entire stem with YG 93, and then come back with my 97 and just put that shadow back in there so you can really see it. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to color our pumpkin. We're going to use YR27, 24, 23, and 21. And I'm just flicking my YR27 in where I want the darkest shadows to be. And I'm going to give it 2 coats, so I don't really care that it's not going to blend. It's going to look terrible before it looks better. So we're just going to flick this on quickly, flicking it down each of those little creases in the pumpkin and leaving the center of the pumpkin spots a little bit lighter so that it will show more light on that section. And then we're going to flick that on there. We're going to go ahead and add YR23. Again, just flicking quickly, flicking that on there. Don't care what it looks like because I know I'm going to have to give it a second coat. And then I'm filling in that little white patch with my YR21. Now we're going to come in with our second coat and just do the whole thing over. I'm just going to add all 4 colors on there and flick them down. And I like how you can see already that it's going to, once I put my second color on there, you can see how it's blending a lot better than it did the first time around. So I may have to even, I'm not going to have to this time, but you may have to even add a third coat. So just keep that in mind when you are doing your coloring, that you may need to add a little bit more. Now I'm going to go over the entire pumpkin with YR21 so that it'll smooth all those colors together. And then I'm going to come back over the top with my YR27 and 24 and flick down and add a few little lines so I've got some definition in there. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for our coloring today. Remember, this is the fast forward version. If you want to watch the real-time version, head over to my channel and you can check that out. Don't forget, I'll put a list of all the supplies that I use down in the description box in case you would like to pick something up and do some shopping. I really appreciate you shopping with me. It really helps me out. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. I really appreciate it, and it helps my channel out. And right about now, you should be seeing a screen that will give you a couple more videos I thought you might be be interested in watching. If you are, just click on either of those and it will take you over there and you continue your watching phenomenon. Anyway, I hope you're having a fabulous day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.